This is the culture.
Hello and welcome back to the Cinema Wave podcast. I'm your host, Vinny Albano, and I am joined by the pleasant Mark Jacobino.
Oh yeah, Vinny. It's game day.
Oh yeah.
What a great day.
It is certainly game day. Today we are talking about Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2, Shibuya Incident Arc. This is a groundbreaking arc in anime, in Jujutsu Kaisen. I would just say as animation as a whole.
Absolutely.
This is going to be a long one, so let's just jump right into it.
Yes.
So, overall thoughts. What do you think, Mark?
So for me, I'm not the biggest battle shonen anime fan.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of them. I've seen Bleach, I've seen Naruto, but for me, Jujutsu Kaisen, Shibuya Incident Arc is, I think, the pinnacle of battle shonen anime arcs. I think it's the culmination of decades of storytelling, of all these different ways that they've went about these type of arcs. And I think just from a pacing, a stakes, a direction, animation, fight choreography, I think all of those come together here and just create a historic, like you said, arc in anime that transcends anime and just elevates the medium of animation as well. And I'm scared to leave this place now, having said that, because I know plenty of shonen fanboys will come after me for saying that. But I truly do believe this was a special shonen battle anime arc overall. And I have very little complaints, maybe one or two criticisms, but other than that, this was such a fun show to watch for the past 18 or 19 weeks.
Yeah.
How about you?
Dude, I 100% agree. I think I've gained a Jujutsu Kaisen addiction. Like, ever since Hidden Inventory, I was literally itching, craving for more. Every Thursday, I would have a break in my schedule, luckily, like right when it released and right when it went on Crunchyroll and stuff.
Yeah.
And I jumped on that like every Thursday. Like, I literally couldn't wait. And it's a testament to how good the quality of the show really is. And like you mentioned, like, this is some of the best choreography and just overall cinematic filmmaking in anime that I've ever seen. Mm-hmm. It's crazy. And it's also just awesome.
Yeah.
Like, this season, every episode was a incredible battle that just topped the previous episode. And it just kept topping itself and topping itself. And it was just so adrenaline filled for the entire time, for the entire 18 weeks that the Shibuya Incident Arc was airing.
Yeah.
And
it never got old. I feel like a lot of shonen battle anime, they have fights consistently and it kind of gets tiresome by the end. You can only see so many fights, but I feel like JJK towed the line so perfectly, juggling the fights with making them, make you be invested in them, but also elevating the characters and then having interesting storyboarding and direction to also make the fights not get stale, because there's been plenty of arcs where it's like fight. And it's like, oh my gosh, this is just too much. But here I was like, yes, give me another one. Give me another one. Keep the last one from last episode going. And I just think that's a testament to what all those animators were able to do over there at MAPPA.
Yeah, 100%. And also, like, not to mention, the fights are so, the entire season is fights, but every fight is so impactful to the world and to the characters. We had some significant deaths that happened in this arc that hit like a truck. Yeah. Super emotional. And it also impacts the world and the characters in that world just as much as the audience, which I love. I thought just so well crafted.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's a completely different show now, and that just shows how well this show evolved through this arc. And I'm so excited for the future of JJK. Oh, yeah. And I'm gonna stay anime only, I think. I mean, I'm gonna dodge.
Whoa, that's gonna be tough.
I'm gonna try to dodge spoilers, but JJK fans are just terrible with it on social media. So I don't know. I might cave at one point, but I'm gonna try and stay anime only. Yeah. I know you said you're just jumping right into the manga after this.
After this recording, I'm binging the manga. It's just, dude, I'm not even gonna lie. Like you mentioned, the JJK fandom, they just, even for anime onlys, like, an hour or less than an hour before, or less than an hour after the episode aired, there was already edits on my Instagram For You page and whatnot. So it's really tough to avoid spoilers, but I do respect that because it's tough. It's really tough.
I'm gonna try. I mean, I love what they've done with the animation, because I know there was plenty of instances with this arc where in the manga it was just one panel, and then in this arc there were so many expansions on just single panels, whether it was like a significant death scene or a battle that was only 1 or 2 panels, but then in the show it ends up taking like 10 minutes up of screen time. So for me, I just want to experience it through that medium, but I know I'm probably going to pay the price with some spoilers, but we'll see. Maybe I'll cave.
Yeah, which actually transitions me into my next point. Yeah, is that this season, because I wasn't really familiar with the first season and how the first season adapted the manga, but I know for this season, every time an episode aired, I would go back and see the differences in the manga. This is an incredible adaptation of the source material. Yeah. They just completely elevated it. Like, entire fights are like in the manga just itty bitty like snippets, and in this they're like expanded upon into these epic, just beautifully choreographed set pieces that are just mind-blowing, like I said.
And that's what an adaptation should be. Like it shouldn't just be a copy paste. Like it should use the medium that it's in to elevate the source material, and I think that's what happened here, which is great to see.
Yeah. All right, do you want to by chance go into the major events?
Yeah, we have a lot to hit, so I think we'll just jump into it. And I know there's a lot of fights we can probably go through, and we'll probably go chronological order with the fights, but I think we'll definitely start with that first episode where we have the trio back together.
Oh yeah.
And for me, like, this episode was obviously a reintroduction of our trio, because we hadn't seen them since 2019 when the first season aired, and then since then we had 2 projects that didn't even include our main characters. So it was important for them to get that camaraderie back on screen. And I thought, the comedy in JJK has always been really good. Like, it's been really like modern, sophisticated, like it's been good comedy. And I really liked seeing them kind of rally around Yuji, and this girl that used to be really into him, and she used to be heavier set, and now she's skinny, and she's like looking for Yuji, and they're like, oh my gosh, does he have a girlfriend? And Megan's like, he doesn't have a girlfriend. So I really liked that overall, and I think I have some theories about her moving forward, especially with the finale here, but I'll save those for when we get to the finale. What did you think about this reintroduction for this first episode?
I thought it was really cute.
Yeah,
I think cute is the best word to describe it.
Yeah,
I think after season 2, episode 5, Premature Death, you're coming off a very dark topic, and we obviously know in JJK 0 what happens to Geto there. And I loved, like you mentioned, seeing the trio back together. It feels very much like the calm before the storm.
Yes.
I was warned by manga readers that this arc was going to be crazy dark. So seeing this, I kind of knew that I was like, okay, that's probably the last time we're going to see our characters happy in a very long time.
Yeah.
I also liked how, just showcasing Itadori's character and Yuji's character, how he's wholesome. Yes. He's a very good-natured person, and I just love him for that. And he has swag, and he just... I feel something there, because in the first season, he's wholesome and he's a great person. But I feel like it was very, the save people ideology that his grandpa passed on to him when his grandpa passed away. And this kind of levels it up a little bit more further, becomes a little bit more nuanced, because he, in this terms, with the girl, I forget her name.
I do too.
Yeah, but... she, not that necessarily like he's saving her like people from curses, but just helping her out and being a good person and a good friend is just really wonderful to see.
Yeah, it was good to kind of separate him from like the generic MC of a anime. So it was nice to just get that other side of him, and that he is like good natured without his grandpa having to tell him like, oh, you need to do this and pass on this legacy. So yeah, I thought that was really great. But we definitely want to jump in now.
Oh yeah,
we want to go in feet first.
So at the end of that episode, we get the big reveal. Mechamaru is a traitor. He's selling information to the disaster curses. Then we have the actually really cool parallel editing where it reminds me of the scene from Silence of the Lambs where Jodie Foster's character is trying to it ends up at Buffalo Bill's house while the FBI is trying to raid a house, but it's the wrong house. Yeah. It reminded me of that where like they're like, okay, we're going to Mechamaru, and it's cutting back to Mechamaru, and then it turns out they're going to the wrong place, and Mechamaru is in like a whole different space in Japan, and he meets up with the disaster curses. Mahito ends up fixing him from his sickness and gives him a well body. However, I don't remember the details specifically, but basically they conflict and it doesn't go exactly how they planned.
Yeah, so essentially he used Geto and Mahito because he wanted his body back. He wanted to be with his friends at the Jujutsu Kaisen school again, but he knew that the only way he would be able to heal himself is to be in league with them and sell the information. And I think he had a contingency plan, like, I'm going to do this, but I'm going to stop them when I get my body back. And that's when we get like the mech fight. That was very Neon Genesis, Evangelion-esque reference kind of for that. So I really liked how Mechamaru was just not really a factor in season one. He was just someone you kind of felt bad for, but he was very cold and you didn't really like him. And I think within the first couple episodes here, you're very sympathetic to his cause, even though he did do something terrible. Like he absolutely allowed Shibuya to happen, and that's awful, irredeemable. But he did try to stop it after getting his selfish request. So I thought it was a really cool dynamic there.
No, I 100% agree. I love seeing just the tragic yet morality gray his character in the spotlight like that, and it adds a whole nother level of Jujutsu Kaisen that we begin to see more explored throughout Shibuya, and that this world and these characters are, even if they're on the good side, a lot of the time they're not really that good.
They have a price.
And that, a lot of these characters are very morally gray, and I really like that. I like it. Just it equates to very intriguing storytelling and very nuanced and complex worlds, which I really appreciate here in Jujutsu Kaisen. How not everyone, even if they're on the good side, is like, it's not all black and white. So also you mentioned the Evangelion inspiration. I also want to point out the Gurren Lagann inspiration and how like they literally like directly reference Gurren Lagann in that big moment where Mahito breaks into the cockpit, and then you see like the other Mechamaru puppets like come out and hit Mahito. It was a crazy episode. Like it's just a explosion of beautiful colors and explosions. It's crazy.
Yeah, I really loved the sequence where Mahito is switching between different animals to escape Mechamaru's attacks. I thought that whole sequence was unbelievably animated. He's jumping through the forest and then it goes up into the sky. I thought it was unbelievable. Like you said, the colors, all of that was really cool. And the idea that Mechamaru was essentially storing years of cursed energy so he could use it to stop them, because he knew he was going to be going up against two of the most powerful sorcerers in the world with Mahito and Geto. So he knew he had to be prepared for this fight. And unfortunately, even though he was fully prepared, he still lost. But I think the really interesting thing was they introduced the simple domain aspect of it. Like a simple domain can cancel out someone else's domain, which I think is something that's now going to be very prominent, because it's the only way to combat a domain, which is essentially like the trump card for anyone that brings out that in battle. So I thought that was a cool, world building piece of JJK that was kind of hidden in this really over the top fight.
Yeah, no, 100%. It was a great way to start this arc off, because you start with the betrayal and it's like, hold on, like, and also you're starting with a death. Like Mechamaru dies here. And that's crazy. It just sets a very bleak and almost like the sorcerers are powerless against these disaster curses, which we would see more explored on later on. Just going into the next big event.
Yeah.
Gojo versus the disaster curses. So Shibuya, October 31st, Halloween. In 2018, I believe. So the school gets a bunch of alerts that veils have popped up in Shibuya and that the disaster curses are planning something. They obviously send Gojo, they send Gojo everywhere because he's immortal. So he can just, go and take things and take care of everything. This was crazy. This is like some of the best examples of animation, and not to mention character acting animation. There's a cut, which I don't have the key animator here. However, there is just some amazing cuts of Jogo when he's fighting Gojo. And the character acting that's animated there is just impeccable. It's awesome. You see like almost every muscle in his face, like, move, and it's just beautiful. It doesn't even look like animation. It just looks crazy. And also when Jogo is like thrown, there's that one shot where it's like a warped fisheye lens as he's like flying towards the camera, which I love. There's also some other significant things that happen here, which if you want to pick up on.
Sure. I mean, I think the facial animation here was incredible. Not just Gojo having a little too much fun fighting these guys. I mean, he is literally playing with his food, like right in front. And you see that morally gray aspect of Gojo. Like he could finish this very quickly, but he's playing around with him. He pins Hanami to a wall and just destroys him with his barrier. Like he doesn't even kill him. He just incinerates him with his barrier, which is insane.
Which I love about that is that he's literally just looking at Hanami. He doesn't even, because of his limitless technique, like you mentioned, he doesn't even put a hand, not even a finger on Hanami. He's just looking at him, sadistically smiling, and Hanami just explodes into blood. Which is insane.
I mean, it's the ultimate I'm him moment, because then Jogo's right behind him trying to get to him, and he can't even touch him either. So I thought this was incredible. Intro, obviously, it was always fun to see Gojo fighting, but then we get the moment where he has to make a choice, where there's 1,000 transfigured humans around him, and all the disaster curses are like, he has to make a choice here. If he uses his infinite domain, he'll kill all of these people. So what is he gonna do? Like, what is the great Gojo gonna do? And he does it. He enacts the domain and then closes it immediately, so everyone's kind of stunned. And then we have this one of the greatest animated sequences I've seen of him sprinting through and destroying all the transfigured humans in 299 seconds, I think.
299 seconds.
And we get this really great like jazz piano music playing as he's sprinting. Again, you have that fisheye lens in his face just showing how fast he is going. And I thought this part was amazing. And going back to the character performances, when he's done and you have him breathing heavily, it was like, I was like, wow, that's the most realistic breathing I've ever heard in like animation. Because he was just like, you could tell the character or the animation, the voice actor, he must have done sprints in the hallway and then came into the booth and did that, because he was incredible. And then that leads me into, I think, my favorite scene in the entire season, when we do finally get Gojo sealed. And I loved it because it was totally predicated, their whole plan was predicated on the fact that Gojo, the greatest modern sorcerer there is, would freeze when he sees his dead best friend again. And that was the minute they needed to seal him. And I was blown away by that, because it makes Gojo a human again. It makes him have those human emotions. And the music that plays there, and we get the kind of B-roll from the premature death arc. I go back and rewatch that scene all the time, because it's unbelievable. I know I've been talking a lot, so I want to let you go on this too as well.
You're completely fine. Just adding on to that, the editing there, where you just see like those quick cuts of all like flashbacks just flooding into Gojo. And then obviously the big reveal where this is not the real Geto.
Yeah.
It's some other cursed sorcerer of sorts controlling his body that was not properly disposed of. And I feel like as an audience, we sometimes get desensitized because we see Geto through the first season a lot. And you kind of forget that Gojo hasn't seen him since he killed him in JJK 0, which was about a year or two before the events of Shibuya here. Which, it's crazy. It's so good. And then you also see that this sorcerer, this pseudo Geto, is talking to Gojo, and he's kind of almost mocking him and mocking Geto. And Geto, the body, takes control for a moment, starts choking him. But
there's a breadcrumb there for the future.
Oh, yeah.
What is that? What's the possibilities there that Geto is maybe still in there? So where does that lead? Which is really cool too. I think adding on just one more thing to that scene is I love the. It's not camera work, obviously, because it's animated. But when the box does finally open, and there's a storyboard of the camera going up and spinning upside down, almost like representing that Gojo's world is literally turning upside down because he's seeing his friend again that he had to kill right in front of him. But he's like, my eyes are telling me it's you, but like my soul is telling me it's not you.
Yeah.
And this was just like an incredible, like inciting incident to this, iconic arc.
Yeah, I 100% agree. It was crazy. And also the aftermath of this, I love how just it's told and how it's edited here, where you see, I believe in episode 10, or the end of episode 9, you see like there's a shot with like the prison realm he's sealed, and then it like cracks off into like everyone else that's involved in the Shibuya incident, and it's like, oh shit, our biggest player is now out of the field. So this is gonna go south real quick.
We're screwed.
Do you wanna jump into some other things?
I think the last thing I just wanted to say, like just from a story perspective in JJK, like I think this is a great way to deal with a character that you made the strongest in the world. Like he is a god in everything but his mortal form, and usually that breaks the story because he's just like a trump card. He can solve any problem. But I think this is just a great way to keep him out of the story, and now our characters have to evolve because they can't rely on Gojo anymore to save the day, which I think is really cool. And then we get Mechamaru telling Yuji that he's sealed. I was curious, what are your thoughts on Mechamaru as, like, I don't want to call him a Deus Ex Machina, but he is this kind of force that gets information to every single player, but he is dead. I know there's a pact, but what did you think about him kind of being this, like, godly figure that kind of tells everyone what to do?
It did catch me off guard too at first, because I was like, okay, like he's dead. I think it kind of takes off his impact of his death when we basically have like the artificial intelligence version of him talking in the next episode. So it definitely takes some impact away. I feel that without it, they typically do storytelling methods like this in a lot of shonen. So it is very kind of a cheap trope. So I do agree. I think that it does take away some impact. Takes away some surprise, because our characters are going to know specific information that they wouldn't. And however, I don't think it's something too major. That takes away any points,
I think it's explained within the world. Like we've seen pacts like this before. It like makes sense in the world. I was just curious, what other people thought of it, because it is somewhat of a Deus Ex Machina, because he does answer questions later in the season that our characters just wouldn't know without him. So that's the only reason I brought it up. But we can definitely move on to the next group of episodes.
So I believe in episode 8, which is also the episode that I might have the order wrong here, but anyhow, there is another fight, the Yuji versus Grasshopper fight.
Oh God!
Which I don't know if this is a controversial opinion, but I'm just gonna go right into this. Great season. This was the worst. The worst fight.
Easily.
Yeah.
It was a fight that I just didn't need. I don't think it served any purpose. I think it was maybe only there to fill time so that they could sequence their episodes in a certain way. So yeah, I am very happy to just completely skip this and not talk about it.
Yeah, it was just not memorable. Kind of annoying. Also, like, I love the animators, but there was nothing that really stood out here. No. Going into the next big one, however, which is we're still at the beginning, of the Shibuya, you kind of getting the little people out the way.
Yeah.
Like the serial killer, the grandma, and the grandson. And this includes the Yuji Megumi team up, as well as Ino joins in.
The guy with the bag over his head?
Yeah, he's got the ski mask.
Got it. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so they all team up. Ino goes for the grandma and the grandson, and Megumi and Yuji go after the serial killer. I actually really liked this fight. I feel like because by the time the season concluded, it kind of goes under the radar because it's not as high stakes as the other fights here. But I really liked it as an opening fight. You had some really awesome animated moments. I think that the strategical strategies at play here that Yuji and Megumi play in the fight are really cool. Like Megumi drops a elephant on him and just like cool stuff like them subverting his expectations because his whole power was that of resistance. So Yuji like stops his punch and then like lightly punches him and then that ends up doing more damage. I thought it was really cool. I really liked it. I also thought that the grandson and grandma's power was really fascinating, which also we get the return of Toji.
Toji's back.
Yeah. So the grandmother uses a remain of Toji's bone, I believe it was. And basically her powers that she can transform her grandson into like a sorcerer of whatever those remains belong to.
Yeah.
So they're like Toshi Fushiguro, most epic guy in the world. But his soul is so powerful that he just takes over the grandson completely. And we see that brutal moment where he smacks the shit out of Ino. And then the grandma goes, "All right, go down there and kill all the other sorcerers." And he turns around and he's like, "Sorcerers? You're a sorcerer." And it's like he fucking teleports and just kills her, and all you just see is blood splatter.
Yeah. Nah, he went crazy. He went crazy. I don't have much to add on that. I agree. I just like seeing Yuji and Megumi teaming up again, and then having that pact again to say like, don't die. Like, we got to survive this. And of course, we see as this incident goes on that both of them don't fare too well in this whole arc. But Toji resurrecting is the huge piece here, and he has a great performance here in Shibuya. But happy to move on to the next fight, which am I right? Is it Yuji and Choso, or is there another fight in between?
Oh no, there's Nobara and Nanami versus Haruta.
Okay, yeah, we could do that one quick because I'm dressed up as Nanami, of course.
Yes, Nanami. This is actually sorry, I don't mean to interject here, but we both cosplay. This is my third Jujutsu Kaisen cosplay. I did on Halloween. I did Nanami as well. Mark also did Nanami here.
I'm just reusing it today for this.
And I also did Mahito, and now I know.
No, it was awesome. No, that cosplay was sweet. I saw it. It looked awesome.
Thank you.
So Nobara, she fights this sorcerer that's part of their crew, the Disaster Curses crew, and essentially his power is that he has like miracles saved up, and that's what his tattoos mean. So when he dies, like the miracles save him. What I really loved about this fight was I thought it was really creative how he used his sword, but I thought what I really liked was when he punched Nobara and she has like essentially like a concussion. I feel like in a lot of anime when characters get punched in the face, like they kind of just shake it off. They're like, blood comes down. They're like, oh, that hurt. Like
they get fucking punched through a mountain. It's just a scratch.
But Nobara, I loved that she takes the punch and she's literally like, she can't stand up. She's like, what is wrong with me? I thought that was so fresh, and I loved that. And then Nanami comes in and saves the day, and badass moment. He gets his like his moment in the spotlight. I went to the gym today. I tried to get my forearms as good looking as his, and it was impossible. I mean, he just looks too good in this. He looks too good.
He's amazing. He's amazing. Just he's a spectacle, visually and as a character.
Yes.
I love that moment where, because Haruta is you love to hate him.
He's
because,
the worst.
Yeah, he's the worst. He's just
the worst.
I mean, lack of a better term, but he's a bitch.
He is.
He's a bitch.
No, it's true.
And I love seeing that moment where Nanami just like grabs him by the ponytail and just fucking chucks him.
Yeah.
Excuse my language. I'm cursing a lot.
No, you're pumped. You're pumped up right now.
I also like, not to mention, speaking of Nobara, I loved seeing just like all throughout JJK, but especially in these early episodes, there's a big emphasis on strategical fighting. And Nobara is very strategically trying to get around Haruta and save, I forget the other.
She kind of works for like the Sorcerer Society, right?
Yeah,
like
she's
not
one
a
of the
sorcerer
directors.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep.
But trying to save her while fighting this guy who just, likes to torture people, like finds pleasure in beating up the weak.
Yeah.
And then, which is a great parallel because Nanami is someone who is completely selfless. He will put his life on the line to save the youth.
Yes.
And I like seeing that parallel of seeing someone who is a protector come in and just, beat him up. And just a great moment. It's a great moment. It's empowering too.
And I really like that it showed the, how good a first grade sorcerer is, because I feel like last season he fought Mahito, who is obviously like one of the most powerful beings in the world, and he holds his own against him, but here we just show like the levels above Haruto that Nanami was. Like he kicked him and he's like, he didn't even move, and then he just punches him like through the wall into the next building over. So I love this. This was a great opening scene for Nanami in Shibuya.
Oh yeah. So the next it's not that big of a fight, but I do think it's very significant because of the impact that it has. Mei versus Suto Gedo.
Okay, yeah.
Yes. So, do you want to take the stage here? What's your thoughts on this? Because I feel like this might be a bit of a controversial fight.
So, I liked the idea of the the smallpox virus.
Yeah.
Like, I always like the idea that curses are based on human fears, and the fact that like this was literally a generational fear of smallpox in the form of a curse, and she had to fight it. I thought that was really cool, and I thought it was really interesting how she used the crows and her little brother to destroy the curse, and then we get this this tease that she's eventually going to go up against the fake Gedo. Like we see her walk towards him, she defeats the smallpox virus, and then she walks towards him, and we see like, oh, they're going to face off, and then it kind of never goes back to that, which leaves some questions for what we see with her later. So for me, I didn't get too much out of the fight. I thought it was just like visually really cool strategy. What about you?
Similar. I think I actually do have. I do actually have like what's the word? I'm really struggling for some reason today, but I like the fight a lot actually, just because there's some really strong drawings. I think there's like that slow-mo shot of the creatures like trying to grab onto Mei, and Mei's head like cocks back, and you see her like look into the lens of the camera. And it's just beautiful. Like the use of color and the drawings are so strong there. Just some great animation all around. I also thought that it also shows, which we'll get to later, but it shows that Mei is still not a great person. We saw her in season 1, mess with the Goodwill event where the Kyoto school came over, and it was like a Hunger Games-esque deal.
School versus school.
And we saw her mess with the game. We saw her take bribes from Gojo, and now we see her exploiting her younger brother. She has a younger, oh my god, English, I apologize. Okay. She has a pact with her younger brother, or binding vow, that says that her brother can't use his technique unless Mei says so. So it just shows that she is willing to just exploit people, even people close to her, for her own gain.
Yeah, she's just the ultimate selfish sorcerer. So yeah, no, definitely a good point. Very weird relationship with her brother that I don't really want to even get into on this podcast. But
I feel like we're probably gonna get into it later.
Yes, we'll get,
because I think it is a very significant scene.
Yes, it is.
But yeah, we'll move on.
We'll get there.
I will say though, real quick, there is a fight. Well, it's off screen, but Mei Mei fights a curse user in the sewer railway. I forget where they were.
Right.
And it's off screen, but when we cut back to it and like that sorcerer is like, or that curse user is destroyed, and Mei Mei is like having her monologue, and there's a really cool animation where she's walking like almost like a fashion model.
Oh, she's like strutting.
Yeah. And then there's a close up of her like just character acting on her face. I just wanted to point that out because it's really cool.
Yes.
Anyhow.
Yes.
All right, let's get into probably one of the greatest, if not the greatest fights. Yuji versus Choso.
This is a generational fight in anime. I think in 10, 20 years, people will look back and say this is like one of those fights that you remember forever. This was incredible. This is an incredible fight.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it is literally, in my opinion, a masterpiece from beginning to end.
Yeah,
it is so strong, and the camera work, the animation, the choreography here, the storytelling, the editing, the directing, the storyboarding, it all comes together. It all complements each other here. Not to mention, we talked about in our hidden inventory analysis the idea of red and blue.
Yeah,
and they use that red and blue color theory to the extreme here. Both characters are coated in those colors throughout the entire fight in the bathroom, and it's incredible. Even before they enter the bathroom,
yeah, absolutely,
where it's just on sight. Choso fires his piercing blood arrow at Yuji. It's slow-mo. Yuji, it pierces Yuji's arm, but he's able to deflect it before it pierces his chest.
Yeah,
it is. It's incredible.
It's one of those fights that, you know, it's flashy, but it's intimate. Like, it's an intimate fight. There's stakes. Like, Yuji killed this guy's two brothers, and Yuji still feels bad about what he did, but he has to fight to survive here. So both sides are going all out. And I mean, there's just like blood getting sprayed everywhere because that's Choso's technique, but also Yuji's taking hits. Yuji's also landing hits. They're going all out on each other. And before they go to the bathroom, I love the shot where he shoots like a circular amount of like piercing blood, and it cuts everything except like the perfect little circle where Yuji is. I thought that was such a cool shot. And before we get into the bathroom, I rewatched it today because I had to. Okay. And there was a moment where Choso is bathed in pink light, and I thought that was very interesting because Yuta in JJK 0, his cursed energy manifests as pink for his love for Rika. And I think it's very interesting that we see later what Choso does for his brothers, that pink represents like a love, and that's the color that they use in JJK, at least for what a cursed technique would materialize as in love, would be pink, which I think was really interesting. And it was just one like moment in it, but I thought it was interesting because we did talk about colors before. I do know the moment you're referencing. I've constantly seen the same screen grab. Yeah, that's really strong. I didn't even notice that because obviously the big reveal at the end. Yes. And Choso has, you know, this brotherly love, this instinctual brotherly love. I think we can kind of progressing towards the end of the fight. It's incredible just all around. Like, I just love seeing like I mentioned, the camera work and the choreography. There's an awesome moment where Yuji, it's a POV shot of Yuji swinging through the stalls, and he drop kicks Choso. Yeah. And there's a scene when they're just like, you know, exchanging blows, and you know, the rain, the water sprinklers showering them, and then just like the strategic nature of it. There's that raid reference from the Raid 2, where they're posted like that, and then they attack, and obviously
have that awesome example of editing, which going into the end, editing in this plays a significant part, but that track that was used also during the brother fight at the end of season 1, where Nobara and Yuji are fighting the other 2 cursed womb painting brothers, and it's like dun 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 dun, dun.
Yep.
And then in season 1, Yuji hits his black flash. But in this, it's like dun dun dun, and it's cutting back between Yuji and Choso and Yuji and Choso, and it hits, and then it's so anticlimactic. But this time, Choso covered his ribs. He hardened his ribs with the blood, and it fails. And on the spot, Choso pierces him, sends him flying, and he dies.
Yeah.
Yuji, the main character,
Dies.
right there.
Yeah.
And we've seen him die once before.
Right.
But Sukuna brought him back. But this is also like pretty significant. Like, death is a very significant part. And even in the first season, it was very significant. Like, he was in hiding for a while because Gojo didn't want anyone to know that he was dead.
Yeah. The fight was like just extremely gritty. There was so much momentum. All of their movements flowed into each other. They were countering each other. Like, one would go for a punch, and one would catch an arm, and then the other would flip over and catch their leg or something. It was crazy. I got like chills watching it today because it's just so well choreographed. And yeah, I love the like subversion of expectations. You're like, oh, he's gonna do the black flash, and then nope, nothing. And then Choso has this breakdown because he's like, something about this feels wrong and familiar, and we kind of get a cliffhanger. Like, what did he see in that moment? And the other like just quick thing I want to talk about with this is the episode opens with a pedestrian sign, and it's a clean pedestrian sign. And then I believe it's not at the end of the episode, but at the beginning of the next episode, obviously Yuji's dead at this point. The same pedestrian sign is covered in blood, and it's like it's mirroring like Yuji was fine and now he's dead. I thought that was really cool use of imagery.
I didn't even pick up on
just
that.
because of what Shibuya is. It's like a hub. Like, there's people. It's a pedestrian hub. Like, there's like these signs are everywhere, and I just thought it was interesting that it was using the setting to also tell the story through imagery, which I thought was really cool. But I mean, there's a lot of big flashy fights in this season, but I think this one was the best.
Yes, and also like when, like you mentioned, that moment when the narrator starts speaking up, and the narrator's like, then in that moment, all fake memories flooded into Choso. I just wanted to point out, like, how I mentioned editing. Like, that is such good editing and storyboarding, where it's like a snorri cam shot of Choso, and then you see like the aspect ratio is like flashing in and out, like it's about to cut to a 4:3 aspect ratio, but it doesn't directly cut. It's just like flashing in and out, and then it's like it's cutting to like this home video, like super, like almost like Super 8 video reel type deal. And then it does, and it's them. Yuji's there with the other 2 brothers.
What could that mean?
Eating spaghetti, and Choso breaks down. It's just so good. That moment really showed that this is more than just anime. This is just great filmmaking. This is great filmmaking. Yeah, so loved it.
Yeah, I'm glad it connected to the season 1 fight, because I think at the end of season 1, one of the things I felt was weird about the finale of season 1 is that it ended on this fight where they fight 2 brothers, and I'm like, I don't really get why this is happening at the end. We already had the climactic fight, but now it makes a lot more sense why that was set up, because now we're gonna see how Yuji's connected to these other brothers, and it was a theory of mine that wasn't exactly with those brothers, but I theorized that Yuji had to come from something other than just a human, because he had the superhuman strength, and I know this series is very is very inspired by Bleach, and Ichigo as the main character is the son of a Soul Reaper, a human, and then also like the Vasto Lordo. So like he's a combination of everything. So I was like, okay, Yuji's probably a combination of a couple things, which we'll get into a little bit later. But this fight was awesome.
All right,
we could definitely move on.
So the Dagon fight.
Kraken guy.
So this was pretty cool. I think just going right into it. There's a lot that happens in episode 14 and 15 with the Dagon fight, and then the other things that are happening. in Shibuya, Dagon basically is fighting Maki, Naobito, and Nanami.
Yep.
And we see Naobito's technique, which
Very
is
cool.
really interesting. Yeah, like in real life, he can make people into 24 frames per second, or he sees movement in 24 frames per second. And if they don't follow that, a desire, if they don't follow the movement that he plans in those 24 frames, then they're like frozen into a frame.
Yeah,
It's
very interesting.
very interesting. He's also super fast. They mentioned how he's the fastest besides Gojo, which is interesting to think about. And then soon after that, Dagon activates his domain, and it's like this beach. And the colors, I love the colors.
Yes.
And it's it contrasts like the dark, desaturated Shibuya. And this, I will say, in episode 14, the beginning of this fight, I don't think it was good, but it definitely lacked in just in general, like the impact of it all. I think also, I think we'll soon address the controversy around Mappa, and that these animators were clearly suffering when making this season. So that might have been a result of that. But episode 14 kind of, you saw there was a bit of a decline.
Yeah.
But it was nothing major. Nothing major.
Yeah.
Episode 15, however, banger.
This is all in the domain, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yes.
This is Megumi pops up. Megumi is trying to activate his own domain to cancel out Dagon's domain and just create an opening.
Yes.
And then Toji returns.
Yeah, he peeks through the domain, and that was such a cool shot of it. It almost reflects kind of like Gojo in the premature death arc when he's like, I am heaven and earth, or something like that. It was close to him coming through like that. I totally agree. Like the color scheme of the domain is just like such a nice, refreshing like palette cleanser from the really dark Shibuya arc. And I loved here we again see Nanami step up in front of Maki when she's in trouble, like to try and save her and get her to survive. And then he makes his way to Megumi to protect Megumi as he's trying to keep the domain open again, just like reinforcing his character as extremely selfless and trying to always protect the youth in anything he does. So we continue to stand Nanami, but I love this, and we get this insane piece of animation with Toji versus Dagon, which it's not even a fair fight. Toji just absolutely wipes the floor with everything Dagon throws at him. So many cool shots, underwater shots of them walking on the surface fighting. You get that very like exaggerated speed like movement where like the characters kind of stretch, and that's how fast they're going. They do that with him a lot. And it was cool to see the other sorcerers kind of say like, oh, he goes after the most powerful in the area. So he immediately went to Dagon, shows like the pecking order, and then once he kills Dagon, who's next? Who's next? But I'm sure you had some like key animators maybe that you wanted to call out there, maybe not for that, but what did you think about Toji here?
I'm not sure. I don't think I had any key animators listed on here. It's just a lot to keep track of.
Yes. Oh no, absolutely.
However, I agree. Like this was insane. I also love that Dagon, he underestimates Toji. He's like, oh, he has no cursed energy. Like, who is this guy? Like, he's weak. Like, they get him out of my way. And then fucking he just gets demolished. He gets absolutely demolished. I love that one shot where it's like warped, like you mentioned.
Yes.
And it's almost like the world is like a complete sphere in the frame. And like Toji is whipping around Heaven Cloud. I forget the
big nunchuck kind of thing, right? Yeah.
Steals it from Maki and
just like give me that.
And it's twisting it around and just smacking Dagon, and obviously the end where he then sharpens it into two knives and just starts stabbing Dagon like flying down in midair, and just
dude's a demon. He's an absolute demon.
And not to mention, I love how in this we see that his eyes are now like blacked out.
Right. Yes.
He literally looks. He's like possessed.
Yeah.
Also, I think this is the one thing. This, like I mentioned, it's not like a big. I don't think I have any major flaws with Shibuya, but there was one thing that kind of annoyed me. I don't know if you felt the same way.
Sure.
But when Toji pops back up, Naobito, who knows Toji personally, this is, I believe, his brother. I could be wrong on that.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I believe it's one of either way, they're part of the Zenin clan,
Right?
And Naobito, instead of like just telling everyone, which I hate when they do this trope, he's like, and they're like, "Who is that?" And he's like, "Oh, it's a ghost."
Right. Okay. Yeah. Like he could have just said, "Hey, Megami, that's like your dad."
Exactly. He could have saved them all the trouble. He could have saved them, and it just kind of annoyed me.
Yeah.
I honestly would have rather him just not say anything, because being like so ambiguous and cool about it. Oh, that's a ghost. When they're asking him like, "Yo, who the hell is that?"
Like, dude, that guy's not on our side. He could come towards us. Like, who is that? Yeah, I agree. I probably like made a note of that, but I was like, okay, whatever, they're trying to be mysterious or something like that. But yeah, I thought this was really cool, his entrance and how he just dismantled everyone in that entire domain the minute he got inside.
And just kind of, this was episode 15 going into the end of the episode. They destroy Dagon, or Toji destroys Dagon. His domain breaks. And then the second they're back in Shibuya, Jogo walks up. Yeah. And this really shows that Jogo is a special grade curse. When he's not versing the two strongest in the universe, he's
pretty strong himself.
He's crazy, yeah. He literally is like, "Oh man, Dagon's dead." And just literally just taps Nanami, Maki, and Naobito and just burns them to a crisp. Yeah. All three of them in like an instant. And then Megumi gets pushed out the window by Toji, so Megumi avoids the whole interaction with Jogo. And then Jogo feels that there's something going on with Yuji and Sukuna. And then he zips to wherever Yuji's body was. And we see the Hasaba, I believe that's how you pronounce their names, the twins.
The twins that Geto saved.
Yes.
Back in the day, yeah.
The real Geto. And they're trying to reawaken, or they're trying to preserve Yuji's corpse. And then Jogo feeds Yuji the 15, or
like a lot. A lot of fingers.
Yeah. It ended up being now that Yuji has 15 Sukuna fingers in him now.
And there's 20 in total? How many?
There's 20.
Okay, 20 in total. So he's, okay.
Yeah. So now Sukuna's back awakened. And that's how they leave off the episode, which is crazy.
King's back. King of Curses is back.
Yeah. Then we go into the next episode. So next episode doesn't initially start with Sukuna. We go back to Megumi versus Toji, which in my opinion is also probably one of my favorite fights in this season.
Yeah, top tier fight. I love the scene where Toji's in the middle and he breaks the ground and all of the stones pop up and he's able to poke all the stones and it destroys all of the Megumi's bunnies like around him in like an instant. And I was just like, it's just two different power levels. I thought it was so cool. I know we have like a moment at the end where they kind of acknowledge each other. Do you think Toji knew that this was his son? Like, and that's why he initially saved him and then wanted to fight to see where he was as a fighter?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Because we know Toji goes after the strongest in the room, and we know that he killed Dagon, and then he immediately went to Megumi, which is interesting because then it's saying Megumi's stronger than Jogo, which... Again, we know that Megumi has the 10 shadow technique, which rivals Gojo's Limitless and his 6 eyes. So we know that Megumi has the potential to be really strong, but I think it's very interesting that Toji immediately went to him, and then he doesn't kill him. He could definitely kill him, but he doesn't. And then they have that moment in the end. What do you think about that?
Yeah, so I love that moment. I think that moment is incredibly impactful. In my opinion, I interpreted it a little bit differently.
Sure.
I thought he was truly possessed, and that he saw Megumi, like they mentioned during the Dagon fight, that he was just going towards the strongest person.
Gotcha.
So Megumi with the shadow technique being, being on par with a sorcerer like Nanami and Naobito, so went straight after Megumi. That's how I predicted it. And then that he like snapped into his senses once that he asked him his name.
Right.
Either way, though, it is such a good scene. Such a good scene. It's powerful, and you see that smile on his face, and then he just stabs himself in the head, and he says something like, "I'm glad."
He said like he said you took your mother's name, right?
Yes,
like
exactly.
He's like Megami, and he's like, okay, good, you took your mother's name, and then he was like, I can die now peacefully. Like, good, you didn't go to the Zenin clan. Yeah, it was amazing. And then his eyes are clear again. You see the black goes away, and it's just his eyes looking back at him. So, like a really emotional moment. I don't know if we'll ever see Toji again, but this is cool. Kind of closing to his arc, and I think it reinforces why this season starts with premature death. Like we have those moments with Toji and his full circle moment here, and then we also going back to when Gojo got sealed. That all connects there. So, I love this. It sets up Megami. Like, does he start to connect the dots now, moving forward? Like who his father was, and kind of sets up a lot. So I thought it was really cool.
No, I 100% agree. I also like to mention how in our hidden inventory analysis, we mentioned how Toji is really kind of, our interpretation is that he's almost putting a facade on to protect Megumi. And in this, we see that he's really just trying to protect him. Like, he's glad that he didn't go to the Zenin clan, who is notoriously misogynistic, and that they just treat their people terribly. That everything is about being better than each other, and it's a very toxic mindset. Before we move on, though, I do want to shout out for this scene. I do have some key animators I want to shout out. So
shout out to them.
The big bulk of the scene where Toji is like throwing sewer caps and trucks at Megumi, and Megumi's like sliding down the side of the building. That was animated by Nakaya Onzen. It's just incredible. It's incredible. I'm watching it now here on the laptop. It's just so good. There's great particle effects, just amazing compositing, amazing camera movement too. It makes just every hit, every like big explosion more impactful. Also, the scene that I lost it here. Actually.
Mappa, pay your employees. Give them a vacation. Please. They deserve it.
Here it is. My apologies. Same animator. Nakaya Onzen animated that bunny sequence.
Amazing.
So good. There's literally, if you blink, you miss like significant moments. Like there's literally it's like half a second long, where it's a tracking shot of a bunny on a rope, and then he tries to kick Toji, and then you have the bunny boxing with Toji, and it's just it's so cool. It's so well animated. Just
such a great attention to detail for things that you could miss, but if you pay attention, you see the artistry behind all of it. So very, very cool. So we want to move on to Sukuna, the king of curses, making his debut in Shibuya and completely changing the entire geography of the region.
So this is probably like the most impactful thing that happens here in Shibuya, at least to the world, the general world and public. Sukuna is reawakened, and he just goes on an absolute rampage. He says to Jogo, like, hey, I'll help you if you're able to land one hit on me. Spoiler alert, Jogo is not able to land one hit. And then we have like that a little flashback. You just hear it, and you hear like the voiceover from, I believe, season 1, where Jogo asks, like, how powerful am I equivalent to Sukuna?
Right.
And Geto, or Pseudo Geto, answers, you're about 8 or 9 fingers worth of Sukuna's power. But this is 15 finger power, Sukuna. Just, I love the introduction of it, how it's like, we're at Toji's and, Toji and Megumi's fight. And I believe we've cut to Katsukabe and Panda. I could be wrong, but
For a little, yeah.
Yeah, I just know that we're back in just the streets of Shibuya and we hear his menacing laugh just echoing. And then we just see Gojo just
Jogo.
Jogo, my apologies. Fly into the air and he's just smacking him down, and it was just crazy. What were your thoughts on this?
Yeah, so I want to start with Sukuna's introduction with the two twins where they're talking. I love this scene because they're talking about, oh, we have more fingers we can feed to you. We just want you to kill the pseudo ghetto. Yes. And I sat there. I physically said out loud, I'm like, who the fuck are they talking to right now? Yeah. Why do they think they have the power? And the second I said that, off with their heads. I was like, oh my God. And then he completely destroys the other one. We never know what her actual technique is with the phone, but she tries to take a picture of him and it doesn't work. He slices everything in half. What do you think? Do you think the line of ghetto is over? Do you think this is it? Do you think there's any contingencies here where, he saved these two twins, he's dead, they were kind of his successors, and now they're dead? Do you think Ghetto's line is kind of done here, or do you think there's any contingencies for them?
I think there might be a little bit more, because there was those other sorcerers that the real Ghetto also was working with and was also saving. There was that guy with the heart on his nipples.
Yeah, classic.
Which we see a flash. we see a slight brief flashback.
True.
To the twins talking about how the real Ghetto is now gone and now it's a fake Ghetto now. I think those and Katsukabe and Panda end up running into them later in this episode, where I can't remember the specific details. I apologize for that, but they I think that Ghetto's or the Ghetto's legacy of what he left behind, there's still a little bit of hope there.
Okay.
You have that big muscly man with the heart nipples, and there was another woman and another guy, but maybe. I'm curious if they explored that or not.
I think it'll be cool. But I was just curious because it feels like it was, very sudden, and it's like, wow, is that it for them? But yeah, just definitely getting back to the Jogo and Sukuna fight. Just like a spectacle. I think everyone, the minute they started, I was like, wow, this is an entire fight of these guys just going all out. Jogo is throwing everything he has at him. Yes. He picks up two buildings and slams them together. Doesn't work. And then he uses his supreme art with which brings down a literal meteor. And that's when the now very famous scene where Sukuna, everyone's going to run from the meteor, and Sukuna shows up in an instant and is like, stop. You don't get to move until I tell you to move, which just shows how powerful and just over oozing confidence that he's in the middle of a fight and he's stopping other people from escaping the destruction of the fight. He's like, you can't move yet. Not yet. Not until I clap my hands. And they're sweating. The minute he steps there, they're like, wow, we can't do anything right now because he will kill us in an instant. I thought that was incredible.
Yes, I agree, dude. I think this may be, it's definitely my top 5 with the Yuji and Choso fight. I love this episode. I love it. Just with the Megumi Toji and then this. I love the line where, Jogo is performing his meteor and we have amazing animation. That's I literally animated on ones. I was unable to get the key animator here, so that sucks. I apologize, but just amazing animation where just Sukuna is skating on the concrete as we see this building just transform into a meteor. And then we cut to Katsukabe and Panda encountering the other Ghetto followers, like I mentioned, and these Ghetto followers are trying to start a conflict, and Katsukabe is like, yo, those are special grades. There's an amazing line where he's like, these are elephants trampling on ants, and we're the ants. And then right after he says that, Sukuna just teleports.
Not wrong. He's waiting. So cool.
Dude, it's incredible. I just want real quick shout out So Miyazaki, key animator. He literally animated a whole 2 minutes of this fight.
Oh my
of
God.
just epicness, and that's when we see the amazing character acting on Jogo's face and just the building smashing together. I also love the kind of religious symbolism too, when Sukuna cuts the buildings in half and you have him in this Jesus pose.
Yeah,
and
you're
it's
right.
like he's like this figure, this immortal figure that just can't be touched.
Yeah.
Incredible.
And
Just
this is the same fight where like there's so much heat being generated between them that the temperature reading like for like buildings where it's like, oh, it's 75 outside, like it was just flying upwards like into the hundreds of thousands of degrees, and the glass is all just melting because it's so hot between them. And then we have their exchange like on top of the meteor. And I think what's really interesting about this is that Jogo's like, wait, I thought Sukuna's power was slicing, but then Sukuna pulls out fire that's stronger than Jogo's, and it's like, what does that mean for the future? Like, is Sukuna? Do we really know who Sukuna is? Like his full range of powers. It's not just slicing, obviously, because he uses fire multiple times in this, and and then we have that cool scene that I think has been like fan animated before, where they have their like kind of hand movements bringing the fire like together, and then he does the famous, like bow and arrow fire arrow, and he kills Jogo, and we get like almost like a nice send off for Jogo and the other like nature curses, like Hanami and Dagon, like they're all curses that were born from people being afraid of nature, which makes them, they're not good, like they're still curses, but you can kind of understand them because they're just from nature, which is not inherently bad or good. So I thought that was nice that they got like a goodbye, and he's like, well, we won't be as powerful next time, but we'll be back, like we'll be resurrected. So that was nice. Not that I really like cared about any of them, but I thought it was nice that they got a send off.
100%. I love that line that Sukuna says like in that heaven, where he says, stand proud, Jogo, you are strong. Which is like you mentioned, very, very nice.
Nice stamp of approval.
Also, just kind of going into theorizing, we never see him like, or we never hear what he says his technique. It's like blanked out. We hear like gate open, and then it's just like blank. Like the audio cuts out when he
for like the fire. Doesn't he say like fuga, like the open? I don't know what the actual art is, but I think he says fuga. But I think, like you said, it just says open or something like that. So we'll see. I think the other interesting thing is doesn't, I don't know if this one ends like this or the next episode starts, but we see the ice sorcerer Urahame or something. He I can't tell. She's like androgynous. I can't tell what gender they are. But they show up and they essentially like bow to Sukuna and like, we're like making the preparations for your arrival, which is very interesting because it doesn't seem like the pseudo ghetto is interested in resurrecting Sukuna, but it's very clear that this ice sorcerer is working with the pseudo ghetto. So it almost makes like a power conflict between those two, because it's like the pseudo ghetto wants to do one thing, but this ice one is trying to resurrect Sukuna. So is he going under pseudo ghetto's nose and doing this on the side? I think that was a very interesting scene that was very small, but I think very impactful for the future.
It just sets up some like really interesting theorizing. Continuing on to Sukuna's rampage.
The
Mahoraga scene. So we mentioned, Haruta is a bitch. We cut back to Megumi, and Haruta just gets slashes him on the back just out of nowhere. And I find it funny because like in JJK we see this later on with the Miwa Umizaki thing. In JJK, I love how like you'll have a really weak character and they're like, okay, I need to pull out my strongest move on a really weak character. So I mean, you can kind of criticize the storytelling for that, of like being like, okay, we need to really ramp it up really quick. Because was Mahoraga really necessary for Haruta? Definitely not. But Megumi summons Mahoraga, this in the history of the Zenin clan, anyone with his inherited curse technique could never tame the divine general Mahoraga, who can just adapt to anything in an instant. So this beast, and this is one thing I was not spoiled for. So it came out of, I was like, what? This is crazy. And that entire episode was just a rampage.
It was a 25-minute fight, which is insane in like modern anime to hear. It's crazy. Yeah, the one thing I noticed, and I saw some theories online, like did you notice like the aspect ratio of the camera went to widescreen when Sukuna shows up, and like that is like symbolizing that Sukuna's in control, and then just skipping ahead, like at the end when he gives back control to Yuji, it goes back to full screen, which I thought was really interesting, and I thought it also just made this feel very cinematic when he does summon Maharaga with the hand symbol, like you get the pan shot of all the lights shutting down going to him, and then he summons him. I don't really fully understand the whole subjugation ceremony. Essentially, if you summon him and then you die, that means you'll eventually subjugate it, because Sukuna's like, oh no, you can't die, Megami. I have to destroy this thing so you don't subjugate it. I don't know the whole lore behind it yet, but I thought that maybe could have been explained better, but it still sets up this amazing fight where Sukuna goes up against this being that is not on his level, but is the closest we've seen to someone on his level other than Gojo, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. It's awesome. Like, I almost don't have much to say because it's just a spectacle.
Yeah.
An absolute spectacle. Shouting out just some animators that worked on here.
Sure.
You have an animator credited as Howa, Suta Shigetsugu, and Teppei Okuda, who worked on this awesome 30-second cut of like when Sukuna and Maharaga first like come at it and fight each other, and like Sukuna's like doing backflips
up the building.
Yeah. I also just real quick, I love that like he has such an ego, and like he gets hit by Maharaga into a movie theater, and then he pulls out like soda and a popcorn, just like
doesn't taste good. Yeah. And he bows in the middle of the fight, like he cuts a building in half and he's like bowing as the city's like destroyed around him because he's just having fun, which is crazy. I don't have much to say. I mean, like you said, this is just like a spectacle. I think it's interesting that we again see Sukuna is very interested in Megami for one reason or another. He said, I need you to do something for me in the future, so you need to stay alive. What that could be, I have no idea. Must have something to do with his 10 shadow technique, because it does seem like a more malignant type of power, like 10 shadows. It does seem like something that maybe is closer to evil than closer to good, like maybe Gojo's is. Regardless, huge spectacle. And then, he does the Malevolent Shrine at the end. I watched, I don't know if you had the same issue. I watched it like right when it dropped, and the subtitles were wrong. So it was Malevolent Kitchen. So if you've seen any memes online where it's like Malevolent Kitchen, I was watching, I was like,
I saw that.
I was like, is this a different domain? Like, what's Malevolent Kitchen? I'm like, I get he slices, but like, what? So that was like really funny. But shout out to the composer here. The score here was fantastic with the voice, the harmony, and the kind of the orchestra. It was just great overall. It was a spectacle. And we see Sukuna literally destroys multiple square miles of Shibuya and leaves a desolate wasteland. With ease.
Yes. It's mind blowing. Like he literally levels. I believe it was somewhere around 180 meter radius.
You're right. Yes.
Yeah, I could be wrong on that number, but it was insane. Like, and a lot of people are just dying in an instant. And you also like putting through the perspective of like the public, people that are getting harmed. People don't know that cursed spirits exist. People who are not belong in the sorcery world aren't aware that this is the ability of this like spirit that's just been living, king of cursed spirits. Like their lights just go out and they don't even know why they just died. Like it's really tragic. And then we get to the ending, which I thought was really cool, how they he walks up to what he just did, and then we see his smile, and then he gives back control of Yuji, and the smile goes into like a frown, and then Yuji has like the iconic breakdown scene. What did you think of the breakdown scene, and the use of the main title scene, title music for it? Because I have very strong feelings about the use of Specialz, but what did you think? So I know a lot of people were we're giving hate to the Specialz usage here.
Yeah.
I really love that scene. I think that the voice actor, I believe his name is Junya Enoki.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that's him. Yeah, Junya Enoki. Yep. He, oh my God.
Fantastic.
Just incredible here. Just you hear the raw emotion and you know, Yuji, we start off this arc with very wholesome, he wants to save people, and now he just witnessed someone take over his body and use his body to murder countless number of people.
Mm-hmm.
And he just sees the destruction in front of him. Specialz. So I will say at first it was very jarring, and I probably didn't like it at first, but then I was reading into it, and I can understand why they used it, because people were saying how the song is written in the perspective of a curse, and that like Yuji is Sukuna's special, and that like he's just using him like that. So within that perspective, it definitely adds some layers to it. However, it's a little jarring. Definitely a little jarring.
I am so like against it. I would have much preferred silence. I thought when it was silent and he was having the breakdown, I thought that was perfectly sad, like melancholic. I loved that. And then when it started playing, I understand I don't speak the language. Like I understand the lyrics don't mean anything to me as I listen to it. I'm very much in the camp of tone of music over lyrics of music, especially in like orchestration for shows or TV. So I don't want to say that Specialz is an upbeat sounding song, but like
it's very poppy.
It's like a pop song, and just like having this guy have an existential breakdown to a song that's like very poppy. I'm like, this is weird. It just didn't work for me. I would have much preferred just silence. I didn't need some emotional big track or piano. I just wanted like silence, sit in that moment with Yuji. But they had a different vision for it, and that's you know, all I can do is just, you know, give it up to them. It didn't work for me, but I know it worked for people. So yeah, that was my main thoughts on that. And I think this episode was very under the public eye, because it was reported that this was 30% of the vision of what they wanted for this episode, which again, it was a spectacle at 30% of the vision. Imagine if they were given the time and resources to get 100%. This, I mean, who knows what this episode could have looked like, but again, just kind of feeds into this terrible situation over at Mappa and the way they treat their employees.
Just before we move on, just kind of addressing controversy. You know, Mappa has notoriously been hiring employees and just working them under a very strict and tight deadline, to the point where it's unethical, because they're asking for so much work in such a tight deadline, and they're also signing NDAs to like just basically be quiet about it, which is terrible. But finally, animators in Japan, you know, there's a whole work culture where it's frowned upon, or at least you know, people just stay quiet. You know, they're encouraged to just suck it up and be a strong worker. There's even a Japanese word that's quite literally translates to like work yourself to death.
Jesus.
But luckily now we're seeing animators go on Twitter and speak up. And hopefully that in Jujutsu Kaisen Season 3 or the other productions that Mappa have, that they will start treating their employees better, because they deserve it. Like, even under the strict deadlines, they delivered something so beautiful. Something so filled with passion that it's incredible.
It's so impressive.
Just real quick, shouting out another key animator, probably one of my favorite animators working right now, Vincent Chenzard.
Is it because it's your name?
No. He's a French animator. He does share my first name, which is awesome. I believe that's how you say his last name. But anyhow, he animated an incredible cut here of... There's a POV shot of Mahoraga getting drop kicked by Sukuna. Mahoraga throws a building. Mahoraga throws the plane is coming down. I believe it was cut by Sukuna. And he's thrown into a pool. And then he animates the later end where Sukuna is about to activate his domain. that was all done by him. Just holy shit, this guy's insane.
That's
incredible
crazy.
talent. All right, so we're there's a lot of we've been talking for a while, so let's go into the later half, the ending of it. So we have two big showdowns at the end. We have Mahito, and then later we have the Suto Geto showdown. So Mahito showdown is the bulk of the conclusion here. A lot of stuff happens here.
Yes.
I want your opinion. What did you think?
So this battle, is we have two character deaths in a row, back to back, which is pretty unprecedented, especially one battle where we have two significant characters die. I feel that one was expertly done. I felt the other one was more shock over substance death. I want to start with Nanami's death scene because I think it is one of the most well done death scenes, not just in anime, but in animation. I think this scene is so beautifully done. It's like 4 or 5 minutes, which is incredible. And I love the duality of the scene, not just physically with the imagery of him in Malaysia and also here fighting all these transfigured humans, but just the duality of the beautiful music accented by his screams of agony as he's fighting and he's tired. I think it's so amazing that it's not just, oh, look how sad this is. It's really feeding into the theme of his duality of him choosing this agonizing life for selfless reasons over having a life that maybe doesn't have a purpose, but he can live out the way he wants in Malaysia. It's absolutely beautiful. I love the cuts between him on the beach in the poses as him mirroring his attacks in Shibuya and the back and forth. My favorite shot is his face when it's in the water and the water's trickling down his nose, and then it cuts back and then it's blood trickling down his nose. It's absolutely unbelievable. The musical piece, I'm sure, is still done by Yashimasa Terui, who did If I'm With You from the earlier arc. Again, a beautiful piano piece here. And I dressed up as Nanami before he died, so I didn't know this was coming. And now I'm like, wow, I love him even more. So yeah, I just thought this was great. I think another great piece of imagery here was that he didn't have his signature glasses or his tie, like his signature things. And usually when a character loses their signature pieces of clothing that kind of represent them, it shows that they're more like laid bare, like they're more themselves than ever before. And I think that's great here because we see this is his true unselfish self that he always hid behind. Like he never had close relationships with his students. He always wanted to separate himself because of the trauma of losing Hybera. And I just love that he always hid behind his glasses and now he's completely laid bare. And this scene I frequently revisit and I'm just like, this is what makes anime special. Like this type of scene is just like impossible to do in any other medium. So I love this scene. How about you? Obviously,
I adore it. Like just hearing you speak about it, I'm getting emotional. Like I'm about to cry. Like Nanami is probably my favorite character. I'm assuming he's also your favorite character.
Yes.
It was beautiful, and it's tragic that he went out, never being able to fully experience the life that he wanted. He never got his vacation truly in Malaysia. And even in death, like he's contemplating with himself. He is a completely selfless character. He never puts himself first. He's always putting the students and the protection of the students and the youth first. And like you mentioned, to not just curse them with this trauma like he was when he was in that position. And there's even a scene when Yuji walks in and there's that line of dialogue where he's like, no, I shouldn't say it to him. I'm gonna curse him. But then Hybera points. It's like, okay, I know this is the one moment where I have to break my compass here, and then he says, "You got it from here, kid."
Yeah.
And he just explodes. Mahito
Crazy.
kills him on the spot in front of Yuji, right after Yuji also already suffered from Sukuna's rampage. and we go right into the Yuji Nanami fight.
Yeah.
Or
yeah.
sorry, the Yuji Mahito fight.
Yeah. There was another thing that when Mahito first touches Nanami and Nanami says, "Oh, you're here," and Mahito responds as if Nanami was talking to him, but then the line is restated when Yuji rounds the corner, so it's actually Nanami talking to Yuji, and Mahito's not even a thing to him. He's not even acknowledging Mahito, so he's like, "Oh, you're here," and I thought that was like beautiful as well. That like Nanami was even in that moment, he's not even thinking about himself; he's thinking about Yuji. So that was another thing I didn't even catch the first time I watched it. I watched it again. I'm like, why would they repeat that line? Oh, because he's not talking to him; he's talking to and Mahito. You know, typical like condescending self. Oh, he's probably talking to me. Oh, we fought before. We should talk. It's like, I'm not talking to you. Amazing.
And going right into the epic showdown that lasts 4 complete episodes. So Mahito, he emphasizes throughout this fight to Yuji, kind of piggybacking off of your statement there, that he is a curse. He is nothing but a curse. He is pure evil. I know you mentioned, I believe it was you were the one that told me this, that like Gege intended him to be like the opposite of Thanos, where like Thanos had a reason.
Oh, I wish I said that. I did not say that.
Okay, I must be getting you confused with someone else.
No
but
worries.
I know that Gege stated that, according
the manga artist. Gege.
Yes.
He's the one that created the story.
Yes, Akutami Sensei.
Yes.
And he stated that Thanos, you know, he has like this sympathetic reason for killing half the universe. Mahito is like the opposite. Like he's just nothing but the incarnate of evil. And we see that. Like he's mocking Yuji with the puppet of Junpei.
Yeah, crazy.
And just like she's just trying to play with him and just get under his skin completely. And then we see that with the flashback, brief flashback of how Mahito then split into a clone and went after Nobara, encounters Nobara, and is purposely trying to kill Nobara to even get further under Yuji's skin.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. I thought, you know, Yuji is like trying to be the typical anime protagonist. Like, I need to understand him. He's not all bad. Like, no, I'm bad. I'm terrible. Like, you need to stop. You need to transform. And he does. He like Mahito forces Yuji to transform as a person. Like, you need to attack curses with reckless abandon. Like, you need to try to kill us, or we're gonna kill you. So yeah, I really like the creativity in this fight. You know, Mahito's ability is so unique that it allows for these really cool encounters and fight scenes. There's this like very claustrophobic moment where they're both up against the wall fighting against each other, like this close together. They go in an elevator, like it's moving, like it's really cool. But you mentioned Nobara, you mentioned that fight. So I was able to talk about Nanami's unfortunate passing. What did you think about Nobara's fight? Her fight here, she has a great performance here in the fight, and then her ultimate passing. What did you think of that?
Yeah, I think I liked it a little bit more than you. Than it seems. Definitely for sure more shock value compared to something like Nanami that had a resonating feeling with it. Also, hold my thought real quick.
Sure.
Before I move on, that one scene I'd like to mention where Mahito is like closing the wall in with like the ideal transfigured person. That I think was anime only, because I remember reading the manga after that episode. Yeah, and it wasn't in the manga, which is so cool. It's just very dynamic, and Yuji gets the upper hand and kicks him there. But anyhow, going back to Nobara.
Yeah.
So I love Nobara. Nobara is one of my favorite characters. I love her attitude. I love how she's just like, she's badass and she doesn't care. She's independent. I love her. And seeing that initial fight with them on the surface level of Shibuya, some great animation there, some awesome technique. She's trying to aim for the things that kind of like, I forget the name of them, the overheads over like a storefront. Trying to get Mahito into a position where she can attack, and also knowing that his technique is by touch.
Right.
Then they go back into the Shibuya station and they run into each other.
Yeah.
And then that's the moment when the two clones of Mahito pass that you think they're going to combine, but they don't. They run right past each other. The one clone, or the real because the clone can't use the curse technique.
Yeah.
The real one touches Nobara on the face, and I love this moment of like Yuji realizes, like, oh my god, and he just kind of goes into a rage for a moment, and the clone Mahito walks past him, and he literally goes, "Get out of my way," and just punches him to the side of the wall, and he just splats into blood. And Yuji just runs up to Nobara, but it's too late. And I really liked this because although I think it could have been handled better, like Nanami's death. It's definitely a dump of information and a dump of a flashback backstory, and you see this in other shonen anime that, you know, it's not as effective as something like the simple yet impactful death of Nanami. But I do really like her backstory. I do really do. I love her as a character, and seeing her backstory and then seeing her say that she made space in her life for the loved ones and that life wasn't so bad before her eye just out of her face. And then in that flashback, we see her life with her friend and the middle schooler at the time that she like looked up to. Like she was like, you know how like when you're little, you kind of look up to the big kids like that, and you think like someone in 8th grade is like, oh my god, they're so old, but they're realistically going back, they're not. And then that girl, we cut back to her working like modern day, and she's like, oh, I wonder where Nobara is, and I wonder how she's doing. And then it's a hard cut to just her.
So mean.
Yeah, just her on the ground, lifeless, and definitely shock value. But personally, I really like that because that just was like, it was like a guttural punch.
Oh yeah.
I was like, wow.
I did audibly, like, I was like, no way they just did that. Like, I was like, no way they just killed her. I guess my issue really lies in what you kind of said. Like, you kind of relied on an anime trope to like dump backstory and exposition to make us feel better for her. Whereas I wish that we naturally just got to see those sides of her throughout the story, like Nanami, like we got that subtext of that throughout the story. But I feel like here there was just underdevelopment of her, and then they kind of just said, okay, well now we got to finish that story we started last time, where she came from the countryside and moved to the city. So for me, I just feel like her character wasn't done. I really liken it to kind of like Ned Stark in season 1 of Game of Thrones. Like that could be seen as like a shock value death, like, oh my gosh, this is the main character, I don't think his story's done. But then you kind of zoom out and you realize his story and arc was done. But I think here, I don't think her arc was done. I think she was still being built out as a character. And while I like certain moments in this, and I like the idea that, you know, in the show she's always shopping, like she's always doing like the girly thing, but we know she's more of a tomboy, like from her youth, and like her shopping is almost her trying to get closer to that middle schooler that she looked up to, because we see in the flashback that the middle schooler taught her kind of how to be a girl. Like after she met her, that was when she more acted like a girl and like got more in touch with her feminine side. So I like that adds to all those other scenes where she's like, oh, let's go shopping. Hold my bags, Yuji, hold my bags, Megami. I like that because it does add to her character there. I just personally feel that it was a shock value death, and that we could have gotten more out of her. So I definitely see both sides of it. That's just how I interpreted it. And they also like, they're making it seem like, oh, she's not 100% dead. There's a 0. Maybe she comes back. I don't know. I mean, that looked pretty killer, but we'll see if she comes back next season. But yeah, those are my thoughts on Nobara overall, and that unfortunate death scene. But you know, props to JJK for upping the stakes back-to-back episodes. Like that was crazy.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. I think it's very valid to feel that way, especially since, you know, they could have. She was a significant part of. She was the main trio, and we never see the final conclusion. But I also like feel that it also just kind of adds to the world of JJK, because at any moment, your life can be taken, and it's kind of like real life, where unfortunately loved ones can die in an instant, and it's unpredictable.
Definitely.
So yeah. Moving forward, I do love how much of an impact this has on Yuji, because then Yuji sees with his eyes once again another tragedy. In the span of like 10 minutes, he sees 3 significant tragedies, and at this point he's completely broken down.
And Gojo's sealed. Like, he knows
Yes.
his sensei's also sealed going into this. So yeah, he's had an awful day.
Completely broken down. There's an amazing moment that's animated by Dorian Colin and Shizu Shao, where it's just character acting, and he's like crying. It's very desaturated colors. It's almost like black and white, and he's just breaking down, hyperventilating. Blood is streamed down his face. He now has this big scar that Mahito caused, and it's like wow. I think honestly that moment hit me more like for Yuji's character more than his breakdown right previously before that, because then he's just completely out of it. Like, he's not even fighting back at this point. He's literally crawling on the floor, like doesn't want to move. He just wants to die at that point. And then the goat,
Brother.
goat, yeah,
Brother.
Ayo Todo, he walks in and he has a great speech. It's like a poem. I believe it's a Buddhist poem, which I read on it, but unfortunately I don't have the details here. But it's this poem about like a church, a temple, and that he ends it with, "We are the exception," right? And he comes in and he motivates Yuji back to fighting stance. And I love that Todo, he's a goofy character, but he's also I think he's the smartest character in both of the schools, and he's also the strongest character on the Kyoto side of the schools. And he's just he plays so much significance in the story. Every major moment with Yuji, I feel, was brought back at least in season 1. That big moment with the Goodwill event, where literally his peers are trying to kill him. And Todo was also supposed to kill him, but they found camaraderie there and they became brothers.
My besto friendo.
yeah. And then we see here that he motivates him back up, and I was so powerful. And Todo was like probably my second favorite character besides Nanami. I love him, and it's just awesome from that point forward. Awesome.
It's great when like meathead characters that you feel aren't that deep have like these moments where you realize they are so much more than just like what they appear to be. So I love that he was the one to come in and kind of rescue Yuji, because he's now kind of moving forward Yuji's kind of mentor. Like, Gojo's gone, Nanami's gone, like Todo's kind of the person he's going to lean on in the future. And yeah, how could you not be excited to see them fight again with the clapping and the switching places? And I thought they were so much more creative this time around with them switching with inanimate objects and switching Mahito himself. I thought it was so cool, the choreography here. I couldn't even do it justice to try and explain what goes on, but it was just great to see them fighting again together.
It's like, this is a big fight, don't get me wrong, but it's almost like I almost don't have much to say about it, because all of it was just awesome. It was just awesome from beginning to end. Loved every moment of it. I love particular moments, just absolutely adore these particular moments. One of them, speaking of the boogie woogie, which is probably one of my favorite techniques in the show. It's like you mentioned, so cool to watch. It's so creative. And there's an awesome moment where Yuji imbues cursed energy into a rock and throws it at Mahito, and then they boogie woogie with the rock, and Todo is just now flying towards Mahito, and you have an awesome animated sequence that was actually animated by a 19-year-old. Animated by a 19-year-old, and that's when he activates his Black Flash. It's just it's so cool. It's so cool.
He does the All Might Black Flash. It reminded me of All Might from my era. I know there's plenty of memes about it, but that was awesome when he finally did the Black Flash. And then we move the fight outside. And this is when I believe he claps his hand with Mahito's to switch. He loses his hand. Todo, another loss. Like Todo now can't do his boogie woogie. I guess he can't clap anymore. So I don't know if that stops his technique from ever happening again. But I feel like he says, this was my last boogie woogie. So he loses his hand.
Yeah.
And then we get Mahito changing form, like changing into his like ultimate form, which was really cool to see. And then, Yuji's going full tilt on him at this point. Like he's like, all right, now my brother's down. Like I'm going full tilt. And yeah, we get another kind of reference to another anime with Hunter x Hunter where he sits kind of in like the rock, paper, scissors stance waiting for him. And we hear that he is almost a master of the Black Flash now. He's like, there's no way he could do it on command. And he does, which is crazy. So yeah, I thought this was a really great sequence. I think it's the best visual of Black Flash we have at the final point when he lands the last punch on Mahito. It was amazing. But yeah, what did you think about the ending of this duel?
I loved it. I love the way Toto goes out.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned, he loses his one hand to idol transfiguration, and then he has. I don't know if this is before he loses his hand, but the chronological order of it is a little messed up. But the necklace drops.
Oh yes.
Which this was an anime only scene. And we see, it wasn't in the manga. And we see Toto's imagination. As the necklace drops, you see Takada-chan, his J-pop idol that he looks up to, and Yuji, his brother, like in this little like I forget what those are called.
It's like a locket.
Yeah, a locket. Yeah. You keep your loved ones there. those are his two loved ones.
Crazy.
He goes full anime girl mode. All of a sudden, it's like Mahito literally goes, huh? And everything becomes purple and flowers and pink. And Takada-chan helps him just get a few punches into Mahito before Toto uses his other hand to clap. Mm-hmm. And then loses his other hand to it gets burnt to crisp.
Yeah.
And then we go into the Yuji part. Mm-hmm. Just awesome. The Black Flash here was so cool. It was, like you mentioned, I think probably the best Black Flash. And it's the colors are epic and the facial expressions are so exaggerated, and you see Mahito fly in this spectacle of red, black, and blue. Awesome stuff. Also, not to mention, I know, shout out Yuji Itadori's voice actor, like we mentioned before, Junya Inoki, but Mahito's voice actor too.
He's incredible.
Yeah, Nobunaga Shimazaki. Wow, he is a villain here. He's going all out. So we conclude this fight with the very famous "I'm you" line, right? Mahito is preaching to Yuji through this entire fight, as Yuji, like you mentioned, is trying to be this like shonen protagonist. He's trying to understand. He's trying to be Naruto. He's trying to handshake him. Oh, but you're good. You're good. Come on, man. Right? But it doesn't work. And Mahito's like, yo, I'm you. You are me. Like, I kill humans just because that's my nature. And you kill curses because you don't want to admit it, but that's just your nature. And Yuji realizes this. He has this change in character where he really just embraces that. And it's like, you know what? You're right. I am you. And it doesn't matter how many times you're going to get reborn. I'm going to kill you over and over and over and over again. I'm going to kill as many curses as possible. And you have that amazing imagery of them in a snowy forest. And Yuji is the wolf. He's surrounded by these wolves. And Mahito is now the rabbit, just cowering in fear. And you have, like I mentioned, his voice actor going crazy, whimpering and throwing snowballs, which are really just rubble on the ground.
Right,
And then, before Yuji can kill him, Pseudo Geto shows up. Yes. And Geto's like, you want me to save you, Mahito? And then we move into the final showdown.
Yeah, so we've made it.
Made it to the end. It's pretty quick. I feel like the showdown really only lasts one episode. We see Choso come back. Choso has been cowering because of the events of these memories, but he realizes that Yuji Itadori, is his brother.
Somehow.
Yes. It has yet to be expanded upon. But we do know that Choso, there's that big reveal that Noritoshi Kamo, who's like this very what's it called, deadliest sorcerer in history, and he's part of the Kamo clan, which also confusing names here, but the modern day Noritoshi Kamo, who's the guy with the bow and arrow, he has the same name as him. He's a part of that clan.
That was interesting.
I don't know why they did like just name him someone different. It just kind of confused me. But Noritoshi Kamo, the ancient, legendary, like dangerous one, was actually possessed by the same brain that is possessing now Geto. And Choso reveals that to everyone. And Choso's now like, I'm on your side. This fight was actually not expanded upon that much in the manga.
Really?
A lot of this was anime only. Awesome to see. Love Choso just going all out. I think he's easily become one of my favorite characters.
Yeah, that was
his
cool.
aesthetic and his I love the also adding on to the brother thing of it. Like we have Todo with Yuji, but now we have this real brother, like blood connection. And just really cool to see. I love that moment where like now we're at the end and everything previous has been so depressing. It's actually really nice to see like a joke and that like Yuji's like, oh, you're on our side now, and he's like, no, I'm not your ally. And he's like, what are you then? I'm your brother. Call me Oni-chan.
No.
Yeah.
Try it. Just say it. Oni-chan. It's so funny. It's so funny. It makes him so likable, like immediately.
Yeah, exactly. I love. It's great. It's great stuff. And then you pronounced their name before Urame or Urahame?
Oh, it was like it was like Urame or something.
Yeah.
The ice sorcerer here. Yeah.
Yeah. So they show up. They're in connection with Suto Geto here, and they basically freeze everyone while everyone is basically trying to do an all-out attack on Geto. It's not working.
No.
The Kyoto students show up.
Terrible performance from them.
Yeah.
Just
and
awful.
also, I know we didn't talk about it, but there's also a scene where Mekamaru, the artificial intelligence of Mekamaru, who's still alive, is telling Miwa and telling the Kyoto students, like, don't come to Shibuya, you are going to die. They take offense to it. They think their Mekamaru is like, oh, you find me weak? They show up and they don't do shit. But
Prove him absolutely right.
and speaking of Miwa, Geto basically using the fight that Yuji had with Mahito, breaks Mahito in so that he can use Geto's curse manipulation to consume Mahito and his technique into Uzumaki. He uses it against Miwa, who's like probably the weakest character here.
Yeah.
So he uses his all-out smash ultimate attack against Miwa, which is crazy. I thought I just actually started laughing because I was like, well, okay. But that fails because Kusakabe and Utahime come in clutch there. And we just have this really now, from this point forward, it's a lot of dialogue. And then his master plan is revealed.
Yeah.
And Yuki shows up too.
Yuki shows up, yes,
Yeah.
who we talked about briefly in Geto's main transformation at the end of Premature. We were like, she's probably going to play a big part. And then she shows up here and just shows how powerful a special grade curse user is, because she shows up and everyone's like, oh shit.
Yeah.
So I loved her reveal coming in, and we get the explanation of Geto's plan, fake Geto's plan, which took me a couple times to understand exactly what's going on.
Yeah.
I can't say I fully understand it, but
It's a lot of exposition.
yes, it was very expositional heavy. Essentially, he placed seals on thousands of people throughout his time, not even just in this body, but in multiple bodies. And he broke the seal finally using remote transfiguration from Mahito. And so he explained it simply that there's a bunch of Itadori Yujis now everywhere.
Yeah.
We see that Megami's sister, who was in a coma in season 1, has a seal on her, which opens up a whole bag of worms.
Yeah.
I mentioned way back at the beginning of this episode that Itadori's girlfriend, the girl that's interested in him, I think she might also be someone that has a seal placed on her, and that would make her some sort of a player in this. That's just a theory because I think it would be out of place to bring in that character and then just not use her again. So maybe she has that. We don't exactly know what world he's trying to create. It seems like a world ruled by curses, or at least curses roam free so that humans can kind of be more exposed to curses and can control their cursed energy. That's kind of what I got out of it. What did you get?
From my interpretation of it, which was also assisted by, which I don't know if this is spoilers or not, but I had people like kind of like help me here. Because I got it from what he was saying. My initial interpretation was that he wants all out chaos and that he wants like a whole new world order, essentially. And then through more research and through talking with friends, it seems that he wants to accomplish this through like evolving the human species.
Right. Yeah.
So into whatever the next step of evolution may be. Why? We don't know.
Yeah.
But
we do hear him say like Sukuna, like I'm trying to bring back that age. I forget what the age is called, like Haida or something, like this age of era. Like the greatest age of sorcery. Like that's what I'm trying to bring about again. We obviously don't know what that entails, but we know that he's essentially let all these curses out in Shibuya, and it starts to spread. We see this great opening of the finale, or kind of like a little bit into the finale, where we just see all the governments of the world kind of wrestling with the fact of what is going on in Shibuya. And I love every time we cut from the governments, all the different like communities and the people like experiencing curses for the first time, killing them. We cut back to Shibuya, and every time we cut back to Shibuya, that black hole that was there expands just a little every time, and then by the end, it's a huge like piece of Japan is just gone now, consumed by curses. And it almost looks like an eye, like it almost looks like like the cornea and the pupil. I thought that was really cool, like imagery. I don't know why, but I thought that was cool. So yeah, it's like the world has changed now. Like the world, Japan now, the people are told that curses are real, so that all of the cursed energy goes to Tokyo. Like people now have that go to Tokyo when they think about that, and that's all their negative feelings. And yeah, we I don't what happens next. We see Yuta show up. We get this.
Yes, Yuta.
The king is back. Yes. We see the girl kind of have this horror-esque scene where something lures her out, and she goes out, and Yuta comes down, saves the day. We see that Rika is still there, even though we know that at the end of Zero, like the pact was broken. But we see Rika is.
I'm interested about that.
Yeah, like she's still there, but maybe not in that big form of a curse that she used to be in, but she is still there, which I think is very interesting. And yeah, then we just get hit over the head with just like bombshell that we can get into. But yeah, Yuta goes to the council that we saw at the beginning of season 1, where Gojo was like, no, we need to keep this kid alive, and they're like, no, we want to execute him, and Gojo's like, all right, well, you have to go through me, which you can't do. So now we see Yuta is talking to that same council, and it seems that Yuta is working with them. Like he's like, I've done what you've asked, which is very interesting. Like, was he in Africa because they told him to stay away because they knew this was going to happen? Do they want this world that Geto is creating? It's like, it asks so many questions, like why? Because it seems like Yuta could have went, because he's like, I did what you asked. Maybe I was interpreting that wrong. But then, we get the bombshell. I will kill Itadori Yuji. 2 of our main characters are now on a crash course, which is crazy. What did you think about like this? All these bombshells that we got at the end of this episode.
So I think a lot of people could complain about this episode. Like, for sure, definitely a big info dump, a lot of exposition. But I actually really loved. I didn't read the manga for this at first. I was anime only. So I don't know how it was portrayed in the manga, but I love how they adapted it here. And I think they completely made it info exposition dump possible through the power of just editing and clean filmmaking. Like the parallel editing between all these different people, civilians, political powers, back to Yuki, back to Geto, going back and forth. It made the flow feel very engaging. It made it feel like almost like you're reading an FBI report. and that like we see that, you know, Yuta's boy Inumaki lost his arm in Sukuna's domain.
Yeah.
So I feel that's how I interpreted it, like how that Yuta feels that now it's necessary that like you hurt my friends, I'm now gonna kill you because you're a liability, Yuji. I love Yuta. I'm so glad he's back. So glad.
Yeah.
And I love his introduction. Just badass, and then we have like his cheery personality again, where he's like, "Oh, don't look."
Yeah. It's interesting. I mean, it just opens a whole new world. I completely forgot where I was going with this, but yeah, Yuta coming back was awesome.
Yeah.
I love that he's just like a different character now that we're used to. He was so cheery and optimistic, and now he's just changed. And this is what I was going to say. I love that the world still thinks that Yuji and Sukuna are the same, essentially. They don't trust it. Gojo was really the only one that trusted it, and, you know, Megami and Panda and, like, the people around him. You could even say Inumaki probably trusts him, too, but Yuta maybe didn't have that conversation with him or something along those lines, or maybe his whole view has changed since what Sukuna did. So I love that the world is not in on what we know with Sukuna and Yuji in that relationship. So yeah, this was really cool. And then we get kind of the 5 rulings, like Shibuya Incident was Gojo and Geto's fault. Like they conspired together. The principal is set for execution because he was in league with them. Yuta will be the executioner for Yuji. Like all of this stuff, which makes sense because the council never liked Gojo. They just couldn't do anything. He failed to get rid of Geto, so now Geto his body was used. Yuji, they've always wanted to kill Yuji. Now they just have a better reason to do it. And Yuta is in play. It's absolutely crazy. And then the ending, I guess. What was your interpretation of the last scene? I know there's a couple things we could also talk about. What was your interpretation of the last scene when Yuji is standing in the middle of the bridge and he claps his hand, and that's how the season ends? What was your interpretation of that?
So that's tough because obviously it's in the future now, or like however many days or weeks pass by, maybe months. Yeah, I think it seems like he's almost like on the run now. Yeah, like he's in like a tracksuit hoodie, and he's on the run. Like he's almost like a, what's the word, wanderer, roamer,
a fugitive kind of.
Yeah. And the clapping the hands for the cursed spirits makes me like speculate that is he using cursed spirits now to like fight? But that doesn't make sense because that goes against his whole idea of like, I'm going to keep killing cursed spirits. And that might be the reason why, just like him hunting down cursed spirits for the sake of it.
To make up for his mistakes, I guess.
Yeah.
There was a part of me that felt that there was a this sounds intense, but like a suicidal undertone. Like he's messed up all this stuff. Yeah. The world is now against him. He's probably having these thoughts like, well, if I stay alive, like Sukuna can do what he did before again. So I'm just going to go out on my own terms and just kind of draw all these cursed spirits towards me. And if I win, I win. I kill cursed spirits, which is a good thing. But I don't know. There's just a part of me that thinks like Yuji just changed as a person. He's not that optimist anymore, and he's just like, kind of like try, like just like bring it on. And if I survive, I survive. I don't know. Yeah. That was the undertone I kind of got there, but I could also see just him trying to make up for what he did. Yeah. It's interesting.
Super fascinating stuff. The whole, a couple things before we wrap up. Yeah. One. Yuki, we never see her technique. She said that she's just there to kind of stall time for everyone else to get out of there. But I love her energy. She's so like just every scene she's in, she's badass. She's a funny personality. I love her energy. I'm very curious what her technique is because she has like Shikigami following her. I don't. I'm assuming that plays into her technique, like that snake like dragonfly thing. Yeah. And then also, not to mention, speaking of pseudo Geto, it reminded me a lot of Aizen from Bleach.
Mm.
Bro, like I know you mentioned how this has been inspired, like this series is very inspired by Bleach, of like how Aizen has like this master plan and everything is a part of a plan, and
Yeah.
oh, that was a part of my plan.
Yeah,
So
I know.
it feels like that, which I like. I do like that. It's. I hope though that because this exposition was a lot, it was a little messy from Geto's point of view. I think everything else was pretty cool, but with the whole speech that Pseudo Geto gives, I hope that it doesn't get messier. I hope that his plan isn't like gets too convoluted. I hope we understand the motive why he's doing this, because as of right now it's like, okay, but why?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And we see he talks about like mixing his blood in with like a woman and the curse. Like, what was his goal? Was he trying to force evolution by doing that? And like the brothers and Choso were experiments, and like maybe there wasn't a final form, and maybe Yuji is that, you know, next evolution where he's very human looking but he has the super strength, maybe something along those lines. But yeah, we just don't know. And yeah, Yuki obviously has another group. She mentions like my group, we're not your allies, but we were just like, we were standbying, and maybe we should have been involved, but we don't know what her group is. We also have this other group that Mei was paid off by, and you know, she has that scene in Malaysia where she gets a call, which again really messed up that she made it to Malaysia and Nanami didn't. Mean,
which
so mean.
Yeah, I would like to talk about that for a split second.
Yeah,
so
go ahead.
That scene is crazy. Obviously it blew up. Insane scene. You know, she's sleeping with her younger brother, who is like 9 years old, and she's naked. And then she gets a call and she's very angry. She kind of like gets out of bed like very angrily. And then, but like I mentioned before, although this scene is weird, definitely weird, and it definitely feels like a sexual innuendo of choice, but it really shows how terrible of a person she is, because she's exploiting her younger brother. She made it to that whole parallel of like, she made it to Malaysia, but she dishonorably fled battle using her younger brother's technique, which I believe is teleportation. Fled battle dishonorably to Malaysia in a very selfish act, when Nanami always wanted to go there, but he died doing something completely selfless. And then she's also, like she said in season 1, that she'll do anything for her monetary gain. And we see that she's already making bets, and she's playing with the stock market, because she knows that whatever happened in Shibuya, it's going to change, and she's going to make a lot of money off of it, which is just crazy. And
it's interesting who paid her off, because she says, I know it's morning by you, and it was still nighttime in Malaysia. So, you know, Malaysia, Japan, kind of on the same time scale. So is it someone in America, another group that's paying her off to not attack Pseudo Geto in that like, she obviously didn't fight him. She left before she fought him. So who could have paid them off? Are they in league with Pseudo Geto? It's a lot of questions. And we just don't have enough information, but we'll find. I mean, you'll find out very soon, because you're gonna read the manga. I'll find out maybe in a couple of years during the next arc, which is called the Culling Games, which kind of makes me think of like a very structured type of tournament arc, which I hope it's not. But very interested to see where this story goes, because the world just got way bigger.
Oh yeah, and just my last point here out of everything is that, just adding on to the Mei thing and adding on to how that relates to the whole Utah and the council of like the higher ups in the Jujutsu society. And it really shows you that the higher ups in this Jujutsu society, they're very corrupt, they're short-sighted individuals, and that this world is just a dark world, that people who are good-natured, like Nanami, like Nobara, die. They die in brutal, unexpected ways, coldly, while people with their terrible motives and bad nature are rewarded, like Mei and these higher ups who just, you know, they can't see past you know,
It's a
just
very corrupt world. Even the clans themselves, it's all
clans,
corrupt. So we know there's no good guys in power. We know that for a fact. So even though Pseudo Ghetto is the main antagonist, we know that the Jujutsu like Sorcerer Society is not any better. Really. So we'll see. Japan is now a haven for curses. Which is crazy. So I mean, wow, that was a lot, but that was awesome. That was an awesome journey to go on with you. I thought we hit a lot of things that I didn't hit on the first time. Hopefully you got some stuff out of it, and hopefully you guys got something out of it throughout all of this. But this was super fun. I just want to again shout out the music. I know we couldn't talk about it because the score hasn't released, but I really connect with music when watching anime or anything. So shout out to everyone who scored this season. I know they had a large group of artists for the first season. They probably did again for Shibuya. So shout out to them. Sorry we couldn't talk about the artist specifically, but I love the music this season as well.
Yes, I echo everything you said. An incredible arc from beginning to end. Once again, look, I can agree with you. Just awesome conversation. Thank you for being here. I'm glad I'm here talking with you today. I hope that everyone watching enjoyed. So that has been our thoughts on JJK Shibuya Incident Arc. Crazy arc. I'm excited for more. Oh my god. So wrapping this up, my name is Vinny Albano.
I'm Mark Jacobino, or Kento Nanami.
And if you don't already follow us at Cinema Wave Media on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and Threads, as well as at _ Culture Wave Media, where you can find us on Instagram, I recommend you do so. We have more content in store if you liked this here. And that has been that. Cinema Wave Podcast. So long.